I assemble the smartest people I can think of or reach out to carry that conversation. And that's exactly what I've done today.
Please give my panel a round of applause. Welcome.
Okay, guys, Jay Martin here, investor and CEO of Cambridge House. And I'm joined once again by Christian Milau, the CEO of Equinox Gold. Christian, it's good to see you again.
Yeah, Jay, great to be back. It's been a while for sure.
It's been a while. Yeah, I think we had you last on in January. And it's about time we have an update. So, because lots has been happening. You've been super busy. I know you just got off the road. You were attending some conferences in Colorado. I'd love to hear how that went and just get your thoughts on sentiment in the gold sector. But prior to jumping into that, I want to talk about your recent acquisition, because this is something I'd love my subscribers to know about. So if you could share the Hard Rock acquisition, now Greenstone, what that was and what's occurred.
Yeah, so we acquired Premier Gold. I guess we announced it late last year and it closed in April. And, we felt there's a really amazing opportunity there to work with you and Downey, who had put together some really good assets in Premier and to actually have the balance sheet and a company that could help ultimately him and take the main project forward, which was Greenstone in Ontario, as you mentioned. So we basically acquired the company, and I think we paid, give or take, $500 million for it. And we get Mercedes mine in Mexico, which is a nice little cash producer. We get a 30% stake in i-80 Gold, which Ewan is now running. And it was spun out of three little assets in Nevada, which he's announced a blockbuster deal on last week. And also some assets in Red Lake. And then we're left with Greenstone, which is one of the top projects in Canada. And when you kind of do the math on it, it's like, wow, we can actually get a 50, now 60% stake in, it's going to be a top 3 or 4 gold mining producer in Canada. What a heck of an opportunity. And for a company our size to step into that, we're super excited about it, and, happy to go into a bit more detail, but that kind of gives you the genesis of it.
Yeah, and that's the sleeper. You said it. That's why I wanted to focus on this now. We're talking about potentially the top 3 or 4 gold producer in the country. And so walk my audience through the next steps. How do we get this to cash flow, and talk to me about the agreement with Orion, how you struck, which I believe is like 60%, 40% Equinox Orion ownership.
Yeah, and just a quick refresher. This is a 5.5 million ounce deposit that'll produce over 400,000 ounces of gold. It's got a 14-year mine life to start. So, and that's just the beginning. There's more underground and there's more to the west. And that was just sort of like the taster, I think. And essentially it's been taken to feasibility level. And they had 2 partners of our operating partners. And what happened was Orion came in, bought out the 50% owned by Centerra. And on the back of that, we said, we're really interested in being a partner with a deep capital, pocketed capital group like Orion that can fund, 50% of this. And also we've worked with them before, both as shareholders, as actually partners on things. And so we kind of came in and said, we'll buy out Premier and own the other 50%. But in the meantime, we also said to Orion, we'd love to own the 60% stake where we become kind of the operating partner and take the lead on this. Ultimately, they're a fund and they'll probably, exit at some point in the future. But we can take the lead, and there's a chance we can end up owning more than obviously 60%. So we bought that extra 10% off them right on the back of announcing our deal. And it's been really well received. And I think, it's nice to see clear ownership and aligned ownership now that we have with Orion. And both of us have the balance sheets to fund this project going forward.
Now, why? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, the timeline, just to give you a bit of perspective here, is, ideally getting into full construction late this year. So we'd have to make an announcement and kind of cut ribbons and get going. And then you'd be spending, give or take, 2 years to fully construct this. It's a big project. It's, $1.5 billion Canadian roughly for the 100% of the capital. And we'll split that 60-40. And you'd be done, call it in the first bit of 2024, pouring gold in the first half of 2024. So it's a big project, but it's well aligned in terms of partners and funding.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for that timeline. That gives me some context. Pouring gold in 2024. And I want to talk about the impact on overall production. But first, why fight for that additional 10%? Why go for 60 when you had 50? Is it operational control? Or talk to me about that, Christian.
Yeah, I mean, you do see quite often when people are 50-50 and everyone's sort of right down the middle, it's sometimes harder to make decisions. And I think it was clear in this case, instead of having two operating partners that you can sort of see being 50-50 makes sense. You have one that is an operating partner who sees this as a long-term investment. So I think it just gives us a chance to help make decisions a little more easily, branded under our brand, move it forward sort of more quickly with our technical assistance and guidance as well. And, if we love 50, our philosophy is we'd actually love to own almost 100% of it, really. But I think in terms of risk mitigation and that, taking all the capital spend and the schedule and that, it's probably a smart move with a company our size, really, to split that with Orion. So, a good compromise was adding another 10%.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense to me. Now, from your seat, Christian, CEO, you're sitting on, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, 7 producing mines on pace for 9, 600,000 ounces of production on pace for 1 million. That's the vision here. Where are you most excited outside of Greenstone right now? What's catching your attention in the portfolio right now that you think investors maybe misunderstand?
Yeah, you're exactly right. We're going from 600,000, and with our 4 expansion projects, you can add, give or take, 600,000 ounces more. So it's really exciting over the next sort of 3-4 years. And you're right, Greenstone right now is a focus and a big project and exciting. It's kind of hard picking your favorite child in a certain way, but I am excited right now about the little things that we're doing. And we just put out an underground study on Arizona, which extended the mine life, almost doubled it actually to 11 years. And that's just the tip of the iceberg at Arizona. We always knew there were going to be lots of ounces in a mine life extension. And ultimately, we really think it will be a multi-decade mine. And so just showing that and actually putting it on paper and starting to demonstrate that's really exciting. And there's a huge land package there. And then you kind of double down on that and you say, in Bahia State, we've got a similar situation at Santa Luz, which we're building. And there's a 70-kilometer greenstone belt between that and Fazenda. And we actually think that'll be roughly a complex that'll produce 160 to 80,000 ounces a year. And there's lots of exploration upside. We're just starting to get to some drill holes right now. So in a way, Brazil feels like it's a little bit untapped in terms of the exploration upside. And, for us, that's a pretty exciting future because I think people doubted those mines in terms of their longevity and their cash flow generation. And I think we're starting to prove people wrong on that front.
Okay. So thank you for those updates. And then I guess to bolt onto that, then, what's going to be the focus for you? You spoke about the timeline and maybe the vision for the next 3 to 4 years. You guys just have to execute, expand resources. I think you recently expanded the resource at Mesquite again, right? Which seems to be the recurring theme at that mine. So is the plan to develop present assets? Are you still in M&A mode, Christian, or where's your focus going to be?
Yeah, no, I think you hit that nail on the head there. We are more on execution mode. We've done a number of deals over the last 3 years when we really formed this company. And right now we got to bed down the assets and execute on them. And really the focus right now is finish Santa Luz this year. So you're pouring gold early next year, like in the first quarter. That'll be a 100,000 ounce producer in Brazil. Then build Greenstone over the following 2 years. That'll add up 240,000 ounces to our profile. And ideally on the back of that, you'll have your amended permit for Castle Mountain in California, which will add another 150,000 ounces plus to our production. And that can start construction after Greenstone. So those 3 things sequence really nicely. And, I think part of getting our valuation to a level that I think we'll be satisfied with and similar to our peers at more like 1 times net asset value is about execution. Just keep executing on these plans, slowly delivering them. There's no quick magic silver bullet or whatever to sort of say, boom, we've solved some of the I think there's a malaise in the gold sector right now. And I think for us, we need to sort of put our heads down and just execute and not worry about the sentiment in the gold equities right now and just deliver on our plan.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. That's so important. It's funny. I was having a conversation yesterday with a peer in YouTube world, a guy that runs a channel very similar to mine. Yeah. And we always share notes in our portfolio. And he was kind of beating me up over my gold holdings. And he's like, look, Jay, if gold's not performing now with every macro indicator supporting it, I think the game's over. So of course, that made me incredibly excited. I was like, perfect. And I went and doubled down on a few positions. So I was like, that's the sentiment that I'm looking for, right?
The more I hear that, the more I get excited too. And it's funny, this summer after we put our Q2 results out, which was meant to be our weak half of the year. And now we're coming into an exciting part of the year and these projects are coming to fruition. And, Ross went out and bought another 2 million of our shares. All of us as management went out and bought some shares in the market, and I was buying them under $8 a share. And I was just like, oh my God, I thought I'd never get that opportunity again below $8. So from a buying perspective, it's been great. Obviously, as an owner of a lot of shares too, it's a little disappointing that the shares are a bit lackluster. And someone said to me the other day, gold averaged $1,800 an ounce. I'm not sure if it was quarter 2, but on average for a full quarter, it's never done that in the history of gold. So I was kind of going, these businesses that are producing gold are actually pretty nicely cash flow generating right now, but they're getting no respect in the market. And, it is a wonderful buying time. And yeah, okay, it may take a little while longer, but if you're working quarter to quarter, it could be tough. But if you've got a bit of a longer term vision and view, then this is going to be an exciting period.
Yeah, if you're an investor as opposed to a trader, the game is ripe for you right now. And you're right, healthier balance sheets than I've ever seen in my 11, 12 year tenure in this sector, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, now a couple other things I want to pull on. You touched on some of the spin outs, and I guess what I'd love you to share is your equity positions in a couple of the spin outs like Solaris and I-80. And I'm a bit curious about your plans there.
Yeah. So right now we have, give or take $450 million US valuation of those two spinouts. Ultimately, we spun out Solaris Resources in 2018. It was private. Then we listed it, and Richard Warwick and Dan Earl have been running it and been drilling now. And it's a David Lowell porphyry and discovery. And really the thought was it would be a world-class porphyry one day. Well, I think it's starting to show itself now. Mm-hmm. And the market cap's well over $1 billion. We still own $300 million worth of it. And, we'd love to see that ultimately end up in the hands of someone who can build that project that's of scale. And, we're there with Richard. I think we own between us 40 to 50% of the stock. So it's a nice core position to both of us. And we'd love to see that go to ultimately the hands that'll deliver it. And so that's been a wonderful story. And almost on the back of that, we sort of said to you, and he had a plan to spin out his 3 Nevada assets, which were a bit smaller and people weren't giving them much value or attention in his portfolio. And we said, we love that. That's exactly what we did with Solaris. So on the back of our deal, we spun those out. And within 6 months, he's gone off and done this, I'd call it sort of the highlight deal of both probably the Denver and Beaver Creek conferences. I think a lot of people were talking about it and saying, how did he pull it off? That was quite intelligent, getting the processing capability in Nevada to handle refractory ores. And then he's got these 11, 10 gram deposits that he couldn't actually process. Now he have the capability. Wow. And I think he's got, 15 million ounces or something. I think it's an incredible number. So he's taken that market cap from a few $100 million up to, I think it's 500 or 600 million today. Within 6 months of spinning out from our company, we still own 30% of it. So again, another $150 million of investment there, and exciting for us to watch and support. And it's in our backyard, so we're kind of look at this one a little more strategically, and we really want to support you and as you create some value there.
And so, do you look at these positions, because you're right, it's like $500 million of, do you look at it as potential liquidity? I don't think you're going to have any plans to finance in the next couple of years. Likely not, but I could be wrong. You tell me.
Yeah, no, there's no plans to finance, and we don't need to sell those to deliver on our projects. But, we're not a copper company. So, and we were very clearly, our mandate is to build a gold company. Ross has got Pan Am Silver clearly, and he's done the copper thing a number of years ago with Lumina and others. So we're focused on actually gold. So that one, I would say, long-term isn't a core holding. I mean, with I-80 Gold, it's a gold company, and he thinks he's got, he's starting to articulate, several 100,000 ounces up to 500,000 ounces of production there annually. And if he can get up to those types of levels, that's a really interesting company in Nevada. So that one's, more strategic, and we're happy to support that longer term.
Okay. Now, I want to talk about the path to Equinox Gold becoming a household name in the gold sector. If you're not already there, I think you're probably close. A couple of things that catch my attention: management's buying as recently as August, right around $8, right? Absolutely. So anybody who thinks they missed the boat on this, just maybe pay attention to that. I think Ross Beatty has put in around 150 million into this story.
Yeah, that's correct.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Christian. Is his game plan here to donate his equity, his shares, to his charity when this story is over for him?
Yeah, and interestingly, Ross he stepped down as chairman of Pan Am. I think he's chairman emeritus there now, and this is his only really active board. And he's super engaged in what we're doing, and we're really excited about building this company. And we would like to be a top 10 gold mining company in the world at the end of the day here. And so we've got some work to do, and give or take, let's say 3 to 4 or 5 years here. Hopefully that's achieved, and we're certainly on the right path. And I think he sees himself eventually as getting a dividend from this company similar to Pan Am. And then ultimately, you're right, Pan Am and this go to his charities long term, which are all for the environment and animals. So it really ties almost into our ESG strategy, not on purpose. It was just that was always been Ross's mantra. He's an environmentalist and a miner, and it's become a very important thing in our sector now, but really, really does play well long term, because it gives us the ability to execute long term and not just think about the short term when we're doing a deal or we're building an asset.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, it's the epitome of putting your money where your mouth is. I love it so much. Right on. Okay. You touched on, Ross receiving a dividend eventually. Do you have a plan, a vision to when Equinox may begin to distribute dividends, Christian?
Yeah, we haven't set an exact timeline. We consider it almost every quarter just from a board discussion perspective. And right now we feel that if we invest in Santa Luz and particularly Greenstone, that's the best dollars in return we can get for our excess, call it capital. So we'll invest in those right now. But I think as Greenstone comes online, call it in 2024, there's certainly got to be on the agenda that year for, what point do we feel comfortable to start distributing some of that excess cash flow? Because, hitting 1 million ounces a year and having pretty modest capital spend in the future beyond that, there will be some excess cash for sending back to shareholders and exactly where Ross has gotten to with Pan Am, although over a longer period of time.
Okay. Now you just got back from Colorado. You attended 2 conferences, probably did 100 one-on-one meetings, somewhere around close to that. Talk to me about just general sentiment in the gold sector, Christian. What did you see in Colorado this month?
Yeah, I mean, the hard part is to separate the sentiment with the lack of people being there in a certain way. I'm going to guess it was 40-50% of the people were there in person, particularly American and Canadian groups from the investor side as well as the issuer side. I think it was hard for Europeans and certain other South Americans to get there. Particularly, I think in the bigger space, there's definitely less people there. So you felt like in the big presentations and certain meetings that you felt that, where is everyone? There's a bit of empty space. And it's always a little bit, not depressing is not the right word, but it always feels a little bit more subdued. And, but in a way that suits our sector right now, as we've been talking about, there's a bit of a lack of conviction and interest in the gold space. But it was interesting talking to the people there. There's an absolute conviction here that this is setting up for something really exciting from the people there, because you just can't go on having this kind of debt spending and negative interest rates, et cetera, forever and not have some impact on the gold space. And we see growth. It seems as though it's sort of being pulled back a little bit right now. So it's going to be an interesting period to see if governments do taper and increase interest rates, to the degree they thought. And is inflation really going to be to the level people thought? And, my guess is it's somewhere in the middle, but it's not going to be, clear sailing as we go forward here.
Yeah. Do you have any ideas if you want to speculate why there is a lack of conviction in the gold space today? Is it more distractions than usual? Is it like the Fed security blanket convincing us everything's going to be just fine? Or what do you think if you care to speculate?
To a certain degree, it's that plus other things. I mean, I think also there have been a number of other speculative spaces that people have been making money. Certainly crypto, certainly cannabis, although it's come off, obviously. Certain other technology spaces have been very good as well, and biotech and that. And the S&P, I think someone was saying to me, the S&P was up 20%. I'm sure it's not today, but it was a few weeks ago. Yeah. And we were down 20% as a sector this year. So, people are sort of chasing that sort of seems to be never ending upward trend of the main markets. And that can't go on forever too. But right now, it doesn't seem like people feel they have a necessity to be in gold in a sense. And does crypto replace some of the gold speculative interest? Yeah, probably a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, but some of these markets have just moved so far. It's a very interesting time. And, I do really believe in contrarian investing to a certain degree in hard assets. Maybe not all your portfolio should be in that space, but boy, oh boy, gold is unloved so much right now in a sense by investors. I think it's a really exciting time. And we've seen so many others, look at uranium now even picked up and lithium and all that. So it's almost like people are like, I don't need gold anymore. And times have changed and it's different this time. Although we've heard that lots of times, right? So I just don't think it's different. It just will smell or look a little bit different in terms of what it's wearing this time.
Yeah, I love that. Maybe it's different this time. But you're right. We're herd animals. We follow each other. Yeah. Just naturally we do. And being a contrarian is really, really hard. And it takes practice. It is. Boy, to think
to actually, like you said, to go in, double down or buy things when markets are weak, when you should be saying, things are on sale. Like, it's just not human sentiment or emotion. It's so hard to do. And when you see other people making money and everything else, and it's incredibly difficult not to follow along at some point. I mean, I even bought a little bit of Ethereum because I actually think it's an interesting technology more than anything. But I thought, as a gold investor, I should follow it a bit and should at least start to understand it. And what a ride when you sit. I have a small little position. Whoa, boy, it's been up and down and all over the place. And I just couldn't handle that volatility on a regular basis, but it is certainly interesting.
Yeah, one of those things. I'm similar. I want a horse in the race. I dollar cost average in. I never look at the price. But I definitely think there's a good 10-year trajectory, but I never compare the two. And last year on my channel, there was such a frequent debate, this gold versus Bitcoin debate. And I was always like, man, that's like comparing real estate to Facebook stock. Like they're different animals completely. And I get how you can draw parallels, but if you work hard, you can draw parallels between almost anything. So anyways. Okay. Look, Christian, it was great having you back on. I love getting an update from you, getting you back in front of my audience. Anything you want to leave us with before we sign off?
I think, like I said, it's a really interesting time to look at this space. And I think Equinox, if you don't know the story, please do some research, because it's an incredibly interesting creation of a gold company in 3 years' time. And where we've come from, almost from a standing start to now, has been really fun and exciting. And we're only halfway there. And I think it's an incredibly interesting time to look at the stock as an investment and the sector. So, please reach out if you have any questions.
Appreciate that. Okay. Thanks again, Christian. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Jay.
Okay, guys, 3 last things. First, if you enjoy my interviews and would like a bit more, you can subscribe to my Friday newsletter. It's free, and the comment to subscribe is right beneath this video in that pinned comment. In this newsletter, I share my key lessons learned, takeaways, and any actions that I might be taking in the market as a consequence of what I've learned on the show. Second, when I started a YouTube channel, I never anticipated generating any advertising revenue. But coincidentally, I do now, which is awesome. And so what I've decided to do is donate this to an organization that is very close to my heart called Zero Ceiling. Their mission is to end youth homelessness. The way they do this is by providing young people experiencing homelessness with supportive housing, employment, professional support, life skills, and outdoor adventure. Because often young people in urban centers with no resources will never get the opportunity to experience wild places, nature that can be so transformational, and absolutely was for me. Third, if you prefer to listen to my content, you can now find us wherever you listen to podcasts. Just search for The Jay Martin Show.